but I've got it.
Possibly one to revolvers, simple. 22.
So she wants to shoot a pistol?
Okay, it's after
Learn
six,
how
we're
to
gonna start.
self-defense if she ever needed to, if.
Hand
Call the
grenade.
meeting to order. First thing we'll get into is I pledge allegiance.
The stun gun.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And there is a ball game tonight.
Ball game.
Make it snappy.
I'm there.
All right. If you have this one that came in your packet, it doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
You did?
Doesn't count.
Well, without the scratching.
Now, do you have,
So tonight's agenda is incorrect. The correct agenda should only have zoning, a discussion about the zoning amendments. Oh, you do?
It says work session, discussion, potential
Does it say
zoning
anything
ordinance.
else on there about Shackford?
number 3? Does it say anything about number 3? What does it say?
Public hearing,
Oh,
public hearing
yeah, well,
continued.
that's not actually happening. That's next week, so I made a mistake. So it's only, all we're doing is tonight is talking about zoning. But while I have your attention, I do wanna pass these out so I don't go
After
mad.
we go off the game, right?
Yes. So these are.
Okay, so I don't like this happening right now, but he's doing it because I understand why. These are all the plans for Shafford that we're looking at next week. I like to have the whole package mailed to us at the same time, but it's costly. So take these home, don't discard them,
Get rid of the other one.
review them.
Well, and next, the purpose of the purpose of next week's meeting, and a lot of it is, I know Chris and several of you have expressed a concern that there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that you're not aware of. So what I wanted, the applicant, Dennis and I talked to, the applicant, Carrie Roman will be at the meeting, Eric Weiner will be at the meeting. The purpose of it really is just to give you an update as to where we are. They're not asking for approval, that's gonna happen at the January meeting, but there's been some plan revisions made, and they just wanna go over and say, this is what we've done. We're gonna have a draft, list of conditions of approval that you can review, that Carrie and I and the applicant.
Stop, people not listening to you right now.
So,
That's what Bob.
Oh, wow. Show up late.
now he's never gonna leave.
Get the best chair.
Yeah, really.
He's gonna show up late every time.
Yeah.
You're encouraging, you're enabling him. Bob, I don't think you remember when you were on the board years ago, Chris was always late. Remember that? I don't remember. So,
That's Ted's chair. Ted Junior.
did he soil it or something?
No, but I'm just hoping that the wisdom of Ted transforms to the chair.
All right.
So Chris, let me back up.
I'm sorry.
No worries. I'm giving you these even though you're not gonna be here. They're not
Take
that,
them with you. I'll call him.
no, you won't. I asked them to give me those, not because we're really gonna discuss them, but I know that they have been revised to reflect a bunch of the changes that we made. And Chris, the purpose of next week's meeting is for them just to give us an update. And I told them to go through the changes they made to the plan so that you all understand what's happened. They're gonna give us an update or an overview of the dredge and fill permit that's now been submitted. The Conservation Commission is reviewing it Thursday night. Whether or not the Conservation Commission, approves it or recommends it in one night, I don't know. It might take a couple of meetings, but at least they're gonna have a look at it. So, and then the hope is that, and to back up, Carrie Roman and I, and Eric Weiner, and I think actually,
I showed up.
Dennis was a little bit involved.
I was late.
We looked at, we put together a draft list of conditions of approval, just as a starting point. You don't have to use them, but I didn't want to sit there and do what we did with Acrely at midnight, trying to remember everything. So we took what we did with Acrely, added to it, and I'll have that for you as a starting point, so you can look at that. There'll be not at least a month, but there'll be a solid probably a solid 3 weeks before the January meeting, right? So you have plenty of time to, you know, if any issues come up, but the hope is that the first meeting in January, you guys can vote on whether or not to approve or not approve that subdivision, we can be done with it once and for all.
Those are for the waiver requests? Is it, or are you saying?
Waivers, no, it's for the entire, the application in its entirety.
Okay,
Yep, all the waivers have now been granted.
Yep.
I mean, there wasn't that many at the end, but, because a lot of them went away.
I
So
thought,
I know-
I thought there was one that we held back on,
That's awesome.
according to the minutes.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk, I mean, we can talk about it next week, so.
Well, it's on the minutes, we have to,
Oh, okay.
it's in the minutes. Anyway, it was in there, I thought there was one condition, or something that we had to wait for, and that was for the conservation board, if I remember right.
What, wells, is it 10, 12?
A letter from the conservation, this item was postponed to the next meeting in December.
One, and there's another lot.
It's a work session, that's what it was. Alright, so there's a couple things, John, I wanna bring up, well, sort of before we get going here. The fire department said they had not looked at anything that the Eagley property had done. They said they did not see the plan, they don't know if they agree with it, they said they did not send out a letter of concurrence. So I talked with Pat and the fire chief, and we need to work with, I'm not sure, did you talk with Pat or the fire chief since then? Because they said that we're not contacting them.
I either had a conversation or an email, I believe, it was one or the other from EJ saying that they had met with Steve Height and Brandon and approved the location of the fire.
Okay, he said, they
Yeah,
said,
I mean,
they-
this was months and months ago.
yeah, he said that's the only thing they looked at was the fire hydrant. They'd
Yes.
like to look at the whole plan.
Okay, well, that's, yeah.
So from now on, what we need to do, when we get these letters, let's go ahead and make sure that we coordinate with the police and fire. Because otherwise, we're gonna go back to the,
Cheers.
TRC. We don't wanna do that. It's time consuming and I don't think it's a good idea, all right? So,
And I know Dennis says he doesn't normally like to give you these materials. The problem we're having is that, if I just got these at 4 o'clock this afternoon, if I put them in the mail, Thursday, the likelihood of you having them before Monday's meeting is slim,
all
so
right.
I wanna make sure you have them.
No, that's fine, John, you did the right thing.
Yeah, but I know, I will try not to give them to you the night before, and, I know Ben isn't here tonight, so I'll have to send his out, but
Ben's traveling out of town. Was he in Florida or something?
Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama? Okay. All right, so anyways, first thing we're gonna start working on, John, I'm gonna let you take the lead on the work session, all the ordinances that we have, that we're looking at. By the way, I would like to say, before we get started on that, I asked John to call the HDC, and tell them we're having a meeting on these zones and on things that's gonna affect the zoning for the HDC. He contacted Lou Pickering by email, John?
Yes, I copied you as well.
Yeah, copied me, so I know it went, but she did not respond, and he asked her to send it to all the other board members. So, I think next time when we do part of the public hearings, take a copy of that letter, that email you have, and then I want you to forward it to all the board members, not just to one. If they decide, all of them decide not to come, fine, maybe it's not a big deal to them, I don't know. But I don't want us getting a black eye, because they say, well, we never got it,
Well, the biggest issue for me was
not knowing.
the two zoning amendments that we're talking about, neither of them are really that important to the town. For me, the Bloody Point, proposed amendment is a little bit more important, only because I think allowing residential uses on that property could be problematic. If it's sold to a historic group, I don't know what it'll be used for. I think it would be nice to clean up the Nimble Hill, what I call the Nimble Hill district, by pulling the district, by making the district a more reasonable depth and accurately reflecting what's on the ground. But I guess if the Historic District Commission came out of the woodwork to be opposed to a fight, I don't know if it's the end of the world. I don't think there's anything imminent happening out there, but I just don't think it really makes sense.
And maybe it's not a big deal. I was gonna call John Lamson this afternoon, and the afternoon I got totally taken out of my hands, so. And by the time I did have time, it was 5 o'clock. I'm not calling him at 5 o'clock and say, hey, you coming tonight at 6, so. That was it, but I think Peggy was here for the selectmen's meeting at 5.
She was.
And who else was here? Was Lulu here?
Lou and Peggy.
So, I don't know.
And I did talk to Lulu at one time, and I don't, she didn't seem to be that concerned about it, but who knows? So I just don't want members of the Historic District Commission or other members of the public coming to a public hearing and, you know, dropping a bomb on us saying, how dare you, when we could have dealt with it now. But, you know, I guess all we can do is extend the offer, and if they don't wanna come, they're not gonna come. Russ, do you want me to pass out your comments, or do you want me to, no, I copy them, but
You know what, it's completely up to you, I don't.
well, it's up to you, you wrote them, you got some.
Well, I don't care whether you pass them out or not.
So Russ took the time to write, I think I will, just because you took the time.
I just wanted to know, I just wanted to put it into perspective.
So Russ took the time to write some comments up, so I'll just pass them out to you so you have them. But we'll start with, none of these are very complicated, unlike past years. I guess you can't be colorblind and read this document.
I love it.
Yeah, if you're colorblind, you got a problem.
You gotta
Yeah.
salute the flag.
But let's start with a simple one, with one first. The one that I just passed out to you, it's a single page and there's some yellow highlighting at the bottom. And on the top it says 12.621 potential zoning amendment for planning board discussion. This came up, Dennis actually reminded me of it today. This was actually a suggestion that Carrie Roman had made, I think during one of our marathon meetings. But as you all recall, when the Shackford Place applicants we were discussing their conditional use permit for their wetland fill. We know, Carrie actually noticed that the Board of Selectmen that they have to get a performance security through the Board of Selectmen. We've now gotten a letter from the Board of Selectmen saying, we're not gonna require it because we know the planning board, it's gonna be part of the planning board's overall security, which makes a lot of sense. So I added the language in the highlighted yellow, basically to say just that, and that is that unless the conditional use permit, that the applicant shall agree to submit a performance security to the Board of Selectmen unless the CUP is part of a subdivision or site plan application reviewed by the planning board, in which case the surety will be included in the performance guarantee for the project in its entirety. Because I don't want, it's stupid for the selectmen to have a small surety when we're doing the whole project. So I think that would clean that up.
Throw something out there. I think I would go as far as to say that's administrative, that's clarifying. It's not
No, it's
changing.
changing, it's changing.
It's changing?
Yeah, it's changing with who approves the bond, or who approves the.
Okay.
All right, so that's content.
I did think about
Okay.
going one step further and removing the Board of Selectmen altogether, but there may be a case where a conditional use permit is granted, only a conditional use permit. I don't know if I've seen one since I've been here, but I suppose someone could do one. But in that case, there's so few and far between, I think we should just leave the Board of Selectmen to administer that portion of
I
it.
think there's a case where if someone had actually, we had one down here for Patno, it was a wetlands. There was a condition used for crossing his driveway, they were pushing for, no, the selectmen, and that was already an established lot. We were the ones that approved the curb cut, that was the reason why it came to us. But if you had a lot that was deep and someone had to go way out into the lot, it's very possible it could go to the selectmen.
So,
And already one lot, I'm talking about
Right.
a single lot, yeah.
So again, I just left it the way it was, but added that language, and I don't know what you think about it, but this, again, Carrie Roman was the one that pointed out this flaw in our ordinance, so, I sent this to her, but she's preparing for a trial, and she said she couldn't look at it for a while, so I don't think it's very complicated, but, we can have John Radigan review this and any other zoning amendments that we decide to bring forward to a public hearing, and he can review them, and make sure they're.
I think this meets the intent, I'm not sure what everybody else thinks.
So
Do you need a motion to put it in?
Well, I
I'd
don't
like
know, Dennis is cheating, Dennis asked me to sort of take the lead. I don't know what at some point, these zoning amendments are pretty easy. At some point, I think you're gonna need a motion to bring them to a public hearing. What I might suggest that we do is just, if there's no discussion on this, maybe we hold off until the end, and you guys, someone can make a motion to bring them up for the ball, the public hearing?
John, I think we should work on each one as we go.
Okay,
because it might be something that we're gonna change.
Well, then Jim, go ahead. You're ready to go. I mean, if you wanna
All right,
move to a
so
public hearing.
before we start, since Jim's gonna be making a motion, I'm gonna, let's see, we have 2 people missing, so both of you will be voting tonight, okay?
Who's the second person missing? Oh,
Ben,
then you're saying Erica is
Erica,
missing?
yeah.
She's no longer with us, so does that make sense?
It makes her missing until she's replaced.
We have a spot empty, we're gonna be addressing that later.
So Jim, now that I interrupted you, I guess I should stop, back up and say, if you wanna make a motion, it's your call.
I like the idea of doing it in its entirety, I have no issue with that. If that's the process you'd like to follow, this is your rodeo.
Dennis says no. Dennis wants you to.
I would like to go each one, because if
Deal with
there's
individual.
Then beautiful,
if there's one that we don't like, we have to change it, then everything stops.
done. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the new submission to section 4, permitted and prohibited land uses in wetlands, section C, subsection 2. That unless the CUP is part of a subdivision or site plan application being reviewed by the planning board, in which case the surety will be included in the performance guarantee for the project. We're typing it in its entirety. Be added to.
Okay, alright. Any more discussion? Rick second, alright. You need more time? Okay, then all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Alright, so we can go to public hearing with that.
Okay. Now we're gonna go to the handout that I think you've had for a while. It's dated, November 8th. And.
By the way, thank you for mailing this to us again.
Oh, yeah.
I greatly appreciate that.
Well, that was your idea. So,
No,
So you want
Thank
me
you,
to,
yourself.
work.
what's that?
so you want me to work from this one, or?
The colored one that you have in your left hand, Gene, that is, Russ Cook's
Oh,
comment, so I just think it'd be nice to have it in front of you, but we're gonna work off of my highlighted yellow, and then we can refer to Russ as we all see fit. So, the very first zoning amendment, there's nothing to discuss, cause, we already know that we need to change that administratively. I'm only keeping that in there as a placeholder because we'll change the ordinance all at once. So, you don't need to do anything with number 1. Number 2, we've talked about this again. Let me just read what it says now, because I don't know why I didn't put that in there. It's on page Z53. You have weird, this sort of odd language. Of course, I wrote all over it. If you read on page Z53, section 5, the current language says repeal of conflicting ordinances. And any existing zoning ordinances or such parts thereof as may be inconsistent herewith are repealed. It doesn't, you can't repeal something. So I think the intent was to say what I've said here, that in cases where a zoning ordinance or parts thereof may be in conflict with another, the more stringent shall apply. We're not, you don't have the right to repeal something.
We used to have that in here someplace, I know we did, I remember reading it, and where it went to over the years, I don't know.
So again, this is, that language is extremely common in every ordinance in New Hampshire. Where yours came from is beyond me, it's bizarre at best, but I think that the language that I propose here is common, and I think it makes sense. And it also refers to regulations, so if you have a subdivision regulation that says something, I don't know what, but the zoning ordinances always trumps the regulation, but this just clarifies that.
Yeah, I agree with the way you've got it written. If there's conflict, the more stringent shall apply.
Anyone else?
So you're adding it to this one, or you're taking this one out?
Replacing it in its entirety, Rick.
Okay.
Yep.
Any more questions? How about a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
me,
Bob.
You were the second?
That was
Oh, who was the first?
Peter,
here.
Oh, okay, because I could hear both voices down there.
You sound alike.
Can't see him, yeah.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, passes.
okay, now getting on to the exciting one. Article two, section 2, list of definitions on page Z5, if you're following along in your zoning ordinance. This one came as a surprise to, I think, Chris and Dennis, who have been around for a long time. So what it says now is it says, frontage shall mean the width of the lot bordering the public right-of-way in those instances in which a property abuts multiple public ways. The planning board shall determine which side of the parcel is frontage, which is all good and well, but it doesn't change the setback. It doesn't change the setback requirement, so I was suggesting that we change it to shall mean the width of the lot bordering on the public right-of-way. In those instances in which the property abuts multiple public ways, the planning board shall determine which portion of the frontage is subject to the front setback requirement, which is what I think that you all thought it meant.
Yep.
You know, Jim, can we just change width to length? I just, you know, cause it's just following the road.
But it's, I know it's following the road, but it's, I don't know that, I'm gonna take that back, I
Can I-
don't have enough
Can I give it
map knowledge.
an alternative? Frontage shall mean the distance a lot borders on the public right of way, period. So if it starts out as a width and turns down and around, you just add up the distance.
Well, the problem is if you have more than, if you have a lot with more than one,
Yeah.
one road, that's about it, you have 2 or 3 roads.
Well, that's what the ZBA's been granting.
What do you mean?
ZBA's been granting multiple roads, quarter lots, frontage on both lots.
Yeah.
Look at the,
The planning,
house next to me.
the planning board was supposed to, but we changed it back then, that was the last time we changed it, we got it wrong apparently. It was supposed to be, so it was contiguous. We told them, just go to the ZBA, then, I don't know what the deal was. But we just wanted to continue, contiguous around I think that's how it reads, when the frontage, when you go read the frontage, it's gonna be contiguous,
It gives,
around the corner.
it gives more details there.
Yeah.
But this would say whether it's length. You take away the confusion as to whether that's the width or the length.
Chris, can you read
it's-
that again, cause I think that was good.
Frontage shall mean the strike width distance a lot borders on the public right of way. So if you take
Wait,
out.
wait. A lot borders, you said on the public right of way, do you wanna say on public right of ways, or the public? You don't have many, but in a lot of towns, there may be a lot, Nimble Hill is here, and, Crisscross Way is right here.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? That's why I say, do we wanna say a public right of way, or the public right of way?
You-
Public right of ways with
It's
apostrophe
Or
just
public
S.
right of ways?
With
If
apostrophe
you
S.
had two
I mean,
intersecting roads, like a corner lot,
Yep.
then the frontage goes along both roads.
But that's exactly what Kerry was saying, no, we only wanted to be, the frontage would be one road. Cause otherwise you've got 2 75-foot setbacks.
There's a difference between what is frontage and what is the setback, and that's what John's trying to clarify. But the frontage that you have on a road is simply where your property borders every public right of way that's there. Now, for it to be counted as frontage, it has to be contiguous, okay? But the setback is a whole separate issue, and that's why
Which is handled in sentence
sentence
two.
number 2.
So, I think what you wrote is good, Chris, so it's, you say.
So you're saying keep sentence number 2?
Yes, you
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying get rid of it.
No.
All right.
So John, if you strike width of the lot bordering, take those words
Yeah.
out, and replace it with distance a lot borders on the public right of way.
Can we say on a public right of way or the?
Contiguous on a right of way?
No.
We're not, okay,
We'll go to frontage we'll go to setbacks later.
okay.
Well, from the standpoint, you could, I think,
This is where, I'm gonna bring up the Mazzot as a classic in that we ran into this problem.
Let's let Chris finish his statement, and then we can look at it, and then move on.
Fair enough.
cross off width of the public, width of the lot bordering, and replace it with distance a lot borders on the public right of way, and you could put in parentheses an S on the end. Public way or public ways.
Distance a lot. Distance a lot.
Borders on the public,
Right of way, parentheses.
I think it would actually be I think the S apostrophe would actually be right after right, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be rights of way? I'm not an English major, I think it would be.
If you're two
Well,
roads,
you're in plural or not plural, so
No, but
right of way with
Yeah,
a parentheses
John,
S.
I think you got it
That
correct.
way it's one or the other.
I think Chris got it, yeah, you can do that.
Is it rights of way or right of ways?
It's right, well, I get your point.
I don't know, I'm asking, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'll look it
Well, I think the
up.
second sentence,
I'll put it both
No,
ways and then I'll look it up
but-
before I put it in the
like,
minutes.
I
You know,
think the-
since you got it hyphenated, I just went right of ways.
That's it, okay.
It's my guess.
I think so.
wait, stop,
Anyway.
stop. The next sentence addresses that with a singular or plural. If it's plural, the next sentence addresses it.
Yeah, multiple.
That's why it should be a single right of way, and instead of saying, I think the second sentence covers it.
Mhm.
The.
Okay, yep.
Well, you can have a frontage on two rights of way, and then you if the boards will pick which one has the front setback.
There's frontage on only one right of way. And we pick it. That's what this is saying.
That's what you-
We allow frontage on two different right of ways as long as they're contiguous, like a corner lot.
Right,
Okay?
but you pick the front setback. You
Yeah.
still pick the front
The
setback.
board picks a setback.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I was thinking that before distance, you could insert contiguous, as Jim was suggesting, so that it would read, frontage shall mean the contiguous distance a lot borders on public, on the public right of way, rights of way.
So, are you changing it from what you gave us?
I think Jim has a good suggestion in that, what is the frontage of the lot? Now, it can go around on multiple streets if you have a corner lot. And one can be 75 and one can be 125, and you've got your 200-foot requirement, but it's on two different right of ways, and we allow that, okay? The question is, where's the front setback? And that's addressed entirely, separately in the second sentence.
So,
Do you have any lots in town that have, this is the lot, and there's a road here and a road here?
yeah, Shattuck Way. We just did it.
Right, so then do we wanna say contiguous?
Well,
Let me explain
later on, not in the definitions, but in the general requirements, it indicates that frontage has to be contiguous. But we could, putting it in both sections would ensure that nobody missed it.
this,
I like the way you have it, was really simple.
Yeah.
To start with.
But I think it's actually enhanced, because, if you have a lot that has 200 feet in its front and its rear property is 100 feet, you have, distance on two rights of ways, and so you have 300 feet, but you really only have suitable frontage on 200-foot contiguous.
Like I said, in those instances where the property, I'm just thinking out loud here, okay? And maybe you have it right, but I wanna make sure we get it right, because this is like, it seems like the 10th time that we've addressed this
Well,
since I've been on this board.
Right. And essentially, there's two issues. What's a legal lot? 200 feet in the residential zone. And it also has to be contiguous, and you find those details back in the table. They're talking about the dimensional requirements. this is way up front in the definitions. I think by adding the word contiguous distance, it makes sure that the legal frontage is the same, both in the definition as well as in the table.
All right, so what if you have more than 200 feet in two roads?
Still picks the frontage, or still determines.
You pick the setback, but that's another issue.
Both.
No, we pick the frontage. We have to pick the frontage. The setback. is
By
on the
picking
side.
the frontage, you're picking the setback, so, yeah, it's almost one and the same, so.
I see this as, one, the planning board has to maintain and should maintain where the frontage setback should be. Two, I believe it should be contiguous because we ended up with scenarios where we had 3 and sometimes maybe more that I'm not aware of to make up A plus B plus C plus N. We have to stop that. It should be contiguous. It's the intent to keep it the 200 feet so that it's the look. And what's happening now is it's anywhere it can, and then it goes to the ZBA and they decide. But I think the intent for this board is we can't take anything away, because something was mentioned, and that would be taking it away, would be if you didn't count a corner lot, both streets. That's why in other words, at one point someone said, you only can count one street. And to my mind, we would actually be taking away from the from the town, the right for their property by
Well-
having it count on both streets.
So the first sentence addresses what counts as legal frontage to define whether a lot is in conformance. That's all it addresses. And it's simply the distance on a public right of way. And if it's multiple public right of ways, as long as it's contiguous,
All right,
it's that distance.
I
And
agree.
so I think the addition of contiguous that Jim
I'm thinking
suggested,
of the case with Bob's neighbor, for
Yeah.
example, years ago, where we tried to fix it. We encouraged them to go, look, this is easy, just go do it, go get the variance. They had a really hard, there was something going on, I forgot what it was, the difficulty was, but it wasn't contiguous.
They had 100.
This year, if you put contiguous in it, it would have made that work and would have resolved that problem.
yes.
So Chris, let's just, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but let's work this thing through. So Stone Face, we can pick on, or the medical office facility,
Right.
either one of those Mark Phillips lots that has frontage on River and Shattuck. They have more than 200 in both cases,
That's right.
but you're determining. So, okay, let's do this. The medical office facility has 170 feet on River Road
Mhm.
and 250 on Shattuck Way.
Mhm.
Are you saying that because it doesn't have 200 feet on River Road, they would be exempt from a front setback? I'm just trying to figure out, I wanna make sure we don't get caught in a
Yeah.
trap.
No, they won't have that won't be frontage on River Road. The frontage would be on Shattuck
Automatically.
automatically.
But what about?
But if there's over 200 in both, which they had, the board decided which one it was gonna go.
Like in the case of Woodbury Avenue where you don't want frontage, what about that?
Well, that's why I'm just worried about the word contiguous.
Yeah.
I think I'd almost rather have you guys decide where the front setback is.
We are.
We are.
We're not giving that up.
That's
Because
all-
if there's 199 feet on River Road,
Yeah.
And we wanted it on River, or the other way on Shattuck Way.
right, it wouldn't qualify because you wouldn't have 200 feet of contiguous.
And then he's got a curb cut on the road. We
No.
don't-
See, I'm viewing contiguous is A plus B
No,
and
no,
it's
no.
all one.
Well, no,
That's
yeah,
contiguous.
on a corner lot, you're right, Jim. If this is the lot and there's a road right away here and here, you're right.
Yeah.
If there's a road here and here,
They're not
that's not
conti-
contiguous,
they're not
and that's what I'm
contiguous.
talking about.
So what would force it, if there was 200 feet on one side and 150 feet on the other, the one with 200 feet would automatically be
Right.
forced to be, he'd be forced
And
to
you
use.
may not like it,
And we may not like it because it's a main artery.
Right.
In which
That's-
we want him to use the other road.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, but what I just heard, forget about going forward, what I heard is, we, as the planning board, get to choose if it was 150 and 300.
Well, but
or-
Jim, you gotta take a step back, and if you were, and I know we're wordsmithing here, and I'm just worried about that one word contiguous.
Okay.
If frontage is defined as the contiguous distance of a lot bordering a public right of way. And frontage has to be 200 feet. Someone has 180 feet of frontage on River Road, they have 300 feet of frontage on Shattuck Way. Their frontage is Shattuck Way, and the planning board doesn't get to decide. That's my interpretation.
Okay.
That's a bad example because
No,
you
no,
want
no,
them,
that-
well, you want them
you
to,
can
you
use
want
that as
them
a-
to front on Shattuck Way. But if you wanted them to front on River Road, I think I would argue that they probably would have to get a variance. If you take the word contiguous out, then I think you guys have the right to pick and choose where the setback is. I think, I'm not,
No,
You know.
you made a good argument.
but I think Chris's original thing that said just distance of a lot bordering on the public right of way. I think that's actually the best.
We started off Mark Phillips' property, we had to decide which was frontage and which was not. And we decided to count, in some cases, we decided to count one thing as frontage, but then because of the traffic, we allowed them to put a curb cut on the other side, because it was safer. And when you look at Mark Phillips' second storage barn we put up, we didn't want it to be on Shattuck Way, we wanted it to be on River Road. Was that Patterson Lane there? I might be
No, you're right, I think it's River, I think it's River Road.
I think it's River Road.
River Road comes.
Anyway, so John's bringing up a good point of if we make it contiguous. I think the other definition as far as a setback says it has to be contiguous, am I correct? The distances for the setbacks?
If we're having too much problems, or if we're having problems here, we should not be making it more complicated in this, because if we're sitting here going around the
No,
table,
I think Chris's original language is really.
that's why
I think that
I'm
actually
going back to
was
what you're
clear, and
saying.
I think I think that was spot on. I just think that adding the word contiguous could cause a problem, and this is gonna be reviewed by an attorney, so you don't need to make a, we don't have.
I
So
don't-
just
But I wanna
distance,
send-
so you're saying distance, not contiguous distance, that's the word.
He's been in meetings all day.
Yeah.
And he gulped down his dinner.
Make it simple. Keep it
Had
simple.
cheeses for dinner.
Oh,
You could've just had candy here and stuff, but you're not going.
Chris, you okay with that? Just keeping it your original?
You could, or let me combine those two. The first sentence, if you said the dimensional frontage to be a conforming lot is the contiguous distance a lot borders on a public right of way.
But we don't care about that, Chris, do we? We know that that's gonna be the case. It's the lots that are already out there that, aren't we more concerned about existing lots? Or no?
Well, I think it comes into play when somebody subdivides a lot. and
I
tries
agree,
to-
but those are gonna have to have
So,
frontage on a class
and
five.
it's because the first sentence, what is your frontage, is a legal determination solely to determine whether you, conform to the dimensional requirements of a residential lot, 200 feet, a commercial lot, 300 feet. And then the second, addresses the case where your frontage is on multiple ones, and then the planning board will determine.
Well,
So
let's look at that crazy lot that comes out of the Acrely project. So he's got 200 feet of frontage on Fox Point. He's gonna have about 300 feet of frontage on Windswept Way. So how?
300? Oh, 800.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I said 3 just to be over.
No,
But how would this change affect the way we call what was his frontage?
That's why I think keeping it the way Chris originally had it shall mean the distance a lot borders on the public right of way. In those cases, it goes on to explain it, and it's very simple. Then you get into the setbacks later, and which talks about it's gotta be contiguous. Am I correct?
yeah, I think Chris's original language is the best. Yeah.
Just to satisfy everybody, can we go to the section where we talk about where frontage and setbacks have to be?
Well, if you go to the table,
Yeah, what page is that on, John?
That's where it's at, that's where you go.
it's on page Z 23. And we'll use residential just because it's easy when you get there. So if you look at the table of dimensional requirements, it'll say contiguous road frontage. So any newly created lot is gonna have to have 200 feet of contiguous road
We
frontage.
got it right there, I think
It's
we're
pretty
really,
simple.
we're really solid and we're.
And I think this is dealing with, to my way of thinking, this more deals with lots of record that are messed up. The Mark Phillips lots, and they're all over town, I'm sure.
Okay,
Because hopefully we won't.
Hey, John,
I think as far as definitions, keeping it simple, and then when you have a particular issue, then you go into the detailed dimensions for the appropriate zone.
Yep.
And it will become clear then.
All right, that's good. Thank you very much for everyone persisting with that. It's sometimes, the splitting hairs is what people look at to try to get what they want, not necessarily what's best for the town. While we're on Z 23, John.
Yeah.
There's some management changes that I flagged to you earlier. And there's the table 6-1. And also Z 22 up in section 1, it's just table 6-1, doesn't exist.
Yep.
It should be table 7-1. So I did want to make sure we capture that, 'cause I've been trying to get this now for 3 years. And we keep missing it. I have it flagged, I brought it up to you and I think other board members, but while we're here, let's make sure we get it all right. So Z 22 and Z 23, that have some, I can show you those errors
Yeah,
again.
no, I got it.
All right.
Yeah, now those changes I recall administrative.
It's a.
Yes.
You're right.
But I'll, like I say, Ross, we'll do them all at once, because
Okay.
once these, if and when these amendments pass, we'll make the changes to the ordinance all at once.
Well,
So-
let me ask you, and I mean, are you saying that they would have to go to town and vote?
No, but I'm gonna make the changes to the ordinance all at once. So once
Yeah.
these pass, they have to go to town meeting.
Yep.
Once they pass, then we'll make all these changes, they're very minor changes, but we'll do them all at one time.
And that's really what I wanted to say, was that I think that, when we change the ordinance yearly after the town meeting, that we incorporate all the administrative changes when we reprint the ordinance.
I agree.
So while we're on that table, I have a question. Table contains 3 zones that no longer exist. They used to exist on the straight board, and that's why they were, but when we dropped those zones and referred to the PDA as the PDA zoning, which they changed at their own, by definitions and their own rate, we decided not to list them, but just indicated PDA land, follows the PDA zoning. So, and that would mean eliminating the first line, airport industrial, the third line, light industrial,
We have
and
light industrial in this town.
We have industrial, I don't think we have.
Well, we have light industrial like in the commercial zone.
That's.
we do not have a specific zone that is labeled on the map as light industrial.
Yeah, you're right.
Across from Rick's Light.
And we also no longer have a mobile home zone, which is line 5.
I heard they're putting one in on Gondola Landing.
I've got the first trailer there already.
And honestly, Chris, we don't even.
That's a caretaker residence for the local orchard.
Well, and honestly, Chris, we don't have a residential two-family zone either.
Yes, we do.
Well, that's just, 2 families are allowed in the residential zone, as long as you have it.
There is a niche mismatch, John's right. I wasn't gonna get into that,
Oh.
but residential -1 family and residential 2 family is defined as single dwelling and two dwellings elsewhere. Do we wanna make that consistent?
Well, it says zone, we don't have a residential 1 and a residential 2, we have a residential zone.
Right.
And you have to have 80,000 square feet for a home, and you gotta have 120,000 for a
Right.
duplex.
The only thing is showing thing there, residential 1 and residential 2 is, 80,000 square feet versus 120.
And that's,
Right.
That's what shows, that's what shows on that land area.
Yeah, and that's why I wouldn't
just leave it.
take them
Leave it.
away,
Okay.
but if you go into the page 3, where we define the residential zone,
Page what, Chris?
page Z, residential district, Z11. We have single-family dwellings and two-family dwellings. And,
Yeah.
so if we went residential, single-family dwelling, residential, two-family dwelling, would be consistent with what's back here. That's all I'm saying, to make those consistent, and I think that's an administrative change,
I agree.
I agree.
yeah. Just,
The other way to do it would be to change the table where it says zone, and you could just have residential zone, and then you could have one family, 80,000, and then two family, 120. It's either, it doesn't matter how you change it.
as long as they're consistent in that,
Yeah.
and so as not to change page C11, let's just call residential, single-family dwelling, and the next one, two-family dwelling.
I think it's actually, now after I brought it up, and I think Dennis is right, I think it's fine the way, I think it's fine the way it is.
I kind of agree, Dennis, because we're in the residential district,
Yeah.
you know, so we
It
don't.
says
Well-
residential, one family,
Yeah, I think
residential,
Dennis
two
is
family.
right.
Well, if you wanted to save space, you can just put,
But not
Single-
trying to save space.
well,
Chris, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the subtlety of the point you're trying to protect.
well, somebody's gonna say, where's residential one-family?
I think
We have
the way
use
it's
permission
written, you gotta say residential zone,
Mhm.
one family, or a single family home, that's really what it's saying, and then residential zone, if you want a two family, that's the dimensional requirements.
Okay,
That, I agree,
So-
I think it's fine the way it is.
okay, that's fine.
So we're gonna, administratively though, we all agree
Yes.
that airport industrial, light industrial, and mobile home districts should be need to be removed from the dimensional requirements.
Line 1, lines 1, lines 3, and lines 5.
Yeah, I agree.
No longer, and basis, they no longer exist.
Right, don't we allow mobile homes in a residential district?
Yeah, but it's not its own district.
Yeah, it's not its own zone. This is just a table of zones. And the residential district
I think
has the dimensional requirements.
so I think, what we should do is say residential mobile home. I think it's the same thing as one family and two family residential mobile home. They are allowed in the residential district.
Yeah, it's defined. If you go to your definitions on Z7,
But there are no it's superfluous because the dimensional requirements are the same for.
right,
And if you had two of them, it would go under two-family dwelling, and if you had one, it can go under one-family dwelling.
Why is the mobile home land area 12 feet?
Because
That's what,
It's
the way
not.
the
It's
base
12,000.
trailer park
Yeah,
was,
because we're small. I
it's
guess.
12,000.
there were 50 trailers in the base mobile home park. It's on the map right behind you, Dennis. Right at about shoulder level.
That wasn't the reason for that though. I
Yeah.
know that's there, I know that's there, but we never had control of that.
No, I know, that was all Air
That
Force.
was all Air
land.
Force.
And
This was separate, 'cause we used to have mobile homes in this town.
but this zone was put in there because it was a PDA zone, on the PDA map. And when it was first put in, several decades ago, we had all the zones that were on the PDA map that was in the town of Newington. And the PDA had 12,000 square feet as the land area required for
So,
the mobile home.
If we take out mobile home, which I agree with doing, if it's only allowing 12,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And it's gotta conform to the single family, one family home, we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
So the mobile home needs to be taken out of there, I don't think it's anywhere else.
Well, and it's a word that hasn't been used in 20 years, and now they all call it manufactured housing, so.
Yeah.
And you allow manufactured it's kind of a joke. I mean, like most towns in the seacoast, you allow manufactured housing on any lot in town, but
Yeah.
no one's gonna buy a $400,000 lot and put a $30,000 mobile home.
We have had that, and we've had to ask them to remove it after we were done building the house.
Well, that's different, that's during construction.
No, it's, well, they tried to keep it.
You know, the other thing is that is a description of the zone that we're talking about. We have no mobile home zone. You know, you go into the zoning districts, Article 3, there's no mobile home zone. So I don't think it belongs.
Yeah, I think take out the mobile home out of it completely, and it's gonna fall under residential, one family.
Yeah.
That's right,
Yeah,
Right.
it'll fall where it falls,
Alright, okay,
that's an administrative change.
yes.
Okay, good catch, Chris.
alright, so let's get back to where we were, so we have to take a vote on frontage shall mean the distance a lot borders on the public right of way. In those instances in which a property abuts multiple public ways, the planning board shall determine the portion of the frontage is subject to the front setback requirement. That's, and the only thing we changed was, we took out width of the lot bordering, that's the original thing that we had there, and we changed it with what Chris proposed, distance a lot borders. Alright, shall mean the distance a lot borders on the public right of way. And we're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, now, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Jim?
Okay.
Alright. Alright, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Alright, go to public hearing.
Okay, the next one is, all historic district stuff. I wanted to just to add, there are two areas of the, historic district, and I'm just adding and names for the first one, which I call the Nimble Hill District, and then the second one I call the Bloody Point District, only because we want to differentiate them and the uses permitted below. So, right now it's all one district and all the same uses. And so if you look on the next page, my page 2, I split the uses. Right now it says any use permitted in the single family R district subject to the provisions of the Newington Historic District. So I split it and said in the Nimble Hill District, it's any use permitted in a single family residential R district subject to the provisions of the Newington Historic District, and added a second paragraph in the Bloody Hill District, in the Bloody Point District, any use permitted in the adjacent office district, which we talked about. We decided it was either gonna be industrial, waterfront industrial, or office, and we went with office, subject to the provisions of the Newington Historic District. So the residential would not be permitted in the on that Bloody Point parcel.
I have a question about this number 4 and number 5. In each one of them, we are showing the ordinance, how it reads, and then how it changes on that. Can we do both 4 and 5 at the same time? Such that section 7B and 7C, permitted uses in the historic district, page C16, and then list the one time what the designated areas are, and what the uses are, and then show the changes in each of those areas.
John, what pages are you on?
Well, it actually, what we're talking about starts on page, one,
Yeah.
at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I only added the names of the names of the sub-districts.
Alright,
And then the meat of what we're talking about is on page 2, the use is permitted.
John, you probably might have looked at mine, because I basically had the same comment that Chris did. I put it on mine on number 4, that's trying to put both of them on, John's 4 and 5 on one thing, where we go through there and say, you know, the designated areas are, Nimble Hill District is this, Bloody Point District is that, and the uses permitted are, Nimble Hill District is this, and, you know, whatever, Bloody Point District is that, you know.
This is I don't understand what you're saying.
It's virtually the same.
Okay, but I don't understand what's wrong with what John has put in there.
I think from the standpoint of addressing the same section 7 twice is confusing. If you have simply, this is what's printed in our ordinance on page C16, the top half. That's
C16,
Wait, Chris, let me just get this,
hold on.
because I'm not following along.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay, so we're at Z16,
And how this is gonna be presented is the top 2/3, section 7 entirely is gonna be shown.
well, I don't know yet, I mean, I'll include, on the warrant article,
Yeah,
on the printed ballot?
This doesn't get printed
I mean,
like this.
on the ballot, Chris, I don't know, I don't wanna have 10 pages on the ballot, but we'll give people enough that they can understand it.
Right.
But I don't think, my thought was I didn't really wanna include section A because nothing's changing.
that's fine. No,
Yeah.
I'm saying. it
Okay,
can
you're
be-
cool with that?
It can be in C, but rather than go B is this, and it's changing to this, and then to address C in what's above,
Oh, you just wanna do it in sequential order, B first, then C, is that, I'm not following,
I wanted to just show B and C, okay,
as they exist,
as they exist. And then changes are
Oh.
for B,
sure,
do this, and C that does this.
okay, that's cool.
I like Chris on the same thing. I
So
like
you
to
want,
see what was
in
first.
other words, you wanna do one warrant
One
article, or one
change,
ballot.
one change for section 7,
Okay, that's
okay,
cool, yeah.
B and C.
So it either sinks or swims on its own, it's either gonna go all down,
Right.
or
Yeah.
it'll all
Yeah,
pass.
yeah. But the other thing, John,
That's
I think John was, that Chris was getting at was that I'd like to see as a voter what the ordinance says today,
Yeah,
and then what it will look like once it's changed,
So let me propose something that
you know?
we tried doing that several years ago.
Oh, boy.
We had a book,
Blow up.
and everyone was really pissed about it.
Well, I don't think that this is that long.
Let
You know,
me-
and I'm gonna tell you that doing it the way I just explained would make it much easier for me when I went into the booth on voting day.
Can I finish?
What?
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
All right. I'd like to we'll print out a sheet explaining exactly what's changed and exactly what is done, and then the words that we're actually voting on are on the ballot, the words that we're voting on. We never got into, and I didn't like it because it never explained what we were changing. We used to get into changing paragraph 3, section whatever, and then just the words we're putting in. That's all it used to be. It was a simple little thing. And everyone said, not enough information, need to know more. There was no
Exactly.
explanation at all. If you put an explanation out there, which was what we've been doing, we tried the first year, we tried putting everything into one, on the warrant article that people were voting on. And they go, what am I voting on? It was too long. So I think combining it, like you're saying, is fine. The danger of it is supposing somebody has, Bloody Point to me is the most important thing. If we didn't get Nimbly Hill Road District regrouped, I would say, all right, they still have more land to work, but I don't particularly agree with it, but the Bloody Point one, right now, the way it's reading, someone come in here and put a house in there. That to me is
or
critical.
houses.
Or houses,
So as a board, you guys gotta decide, and I think, and that's why I separated them. Because for me, the most important thing was to deal with the residential uses of Bloody Point. And if you wanna do it all as one warrant article, my only fear is that what happens if the Historic District Commission comes unglued with the district getting smaller up around your house, Chris?
Right.
And so the whole thing goes down in flames, now we've lost the residential,
and that's
the ability
probably,
to change that.
and to me,
Well,
that's
well,
probably the
I
most
think-
important thing.
In that case, you would come back the next year and say, let's change
It would be
Bloody
too
Point.
late.
Too late.
Be
It
too
was.
late.
And I
Too
also.
late because of what?
They built on it, housing.
No, or even if
You know
it's
what?
not,
You know what, Dennis, if somebody comes in today and says, you know what, I wanna build on Bloody Point tomorrow, you're too late.
No, not as soon as this goes to public.
Oh, jeez.
Well,
Okay, if he came in today, earlier today,
And it's,
you would've been.
well, the other thing is, politically, I don't, if this thing, let's just say this thing went down, if we did it all in one article, it went down in flames, I think it's a little bit, I wouldn't recommend bringing half of it back the next year, cause then the voters get pissed off at you, like, geez, we just voted this thing down last year, why are you bringing it back? So I almost think you have one shot at it, at least for a while, maybe in 5 years you could come back, but, I don't know if I would. So you gotta make a decision, do you wanna do it in one question? Or do you wanna do it in two?
Here's my one thought. Whenever we bundle, we're taking away the voter's right to choose. So in this case, I think that I like the idea of simplification. In this case, I do not think we should separate these two. Because I think the argument on Bloody Point is much stronger than the argument on Nimble Hill. That argument wins.
Wait a minute,
hands down.
I think you said one thing, I think you meant the other.
Bloody Point,
You said you don't think we should separate
Two
them.
separate.
I believe it should stay as it is, it's two
Two separate.
separate.
You said, I understood you to say, I don't think we should separate these two.
Oh, no, just the reverse. I apologize. I don't think we should separate these two for the reason being, we're taking away choice for the residents if we bring them together. So by keeping them apart, it's two different decisions.
Yeah.
And they're
So,
also,
if you guys bring every one of these to public hearing, you voted on 2 already, you voted on 3 to bring them to public hearing. If you vote for all these tonight, you're gonna have six ballot questions. That's not a whole lot. I don't know how many, so I don't know if going from 6 to 5 really helps.
I just, to me, the most important thing that if we get housing on the other side of that highway, it's the beginning to the end. That's just my personal opinion. We've always held that line, it's how I feel, but you all.
It expands it.
Yeah.
There's plenty out there, but this expands it on a legal basis and an encouraged basis, and we don't wanna do that. So in that case, I agree that there's value keeping it separate, but I still think that it's appropriate to address 7B first and show that there are 2 different zones, because C is gonna talk about different uses, and they're gonna,
I have no problem with that.
yeah, so from the standpoint, for 7B, you have the designated areas, which is just a 2.5. The description and not specific enough, as we all know, because the boundaries have changed and the Air Force, has gone away. And so the designated areas need to be both for the Nimble Hill District and the Bloody Point District. I got some suggested words for that. And then we can go to C, and it makes sense that you're dividing the uses between the 2 of them in order. I just think it should be addressed with 7B first and 7C.
I agree with Chris, that's fine. I mean, they should go sequentially anyway, so sure.
They were okay with
I
that?
don't know why I split them.
Yeah, I'm good with that, and I think that we're probably saying the same thing. I just want there to be an eye on how this is gonna end up looking if both of them are approved. So that we start out by saying, one, hey, the Nimble Hill District is this, the use is allowed on this, right? If approved, that passes, and then, Bloody Point, the area is this, and the use is allowed on that. And if that passes, I just wanted to write up and be real.
So Chris, or Russ or Chris, so if we go to, Historic District Section B1, right now, we've all said we should, I think we all agree that the Nimble Hill District, should be described as
Define.
better
Better
narrow.
defined.
But then on
Yeah.
2, it says all land and buildings at Bloody Point. I don't know how the hell you wanna do that. Do we wanna just say the map and parcel? Or it's actually a portion of map 7, lot 24.
Well, here's what when I looked at the maps as well as walked the district, for the Bloody Point District, is the land north of Bloody Point Road to the Piscataqua River shoreline, because it juts out all around there. And the east to either to the industrial, waterfront industrial, or the Sprague Axel Johnson land.
It doesn't show that on this map though. Is that just messed up? That's inaccurate.
Yes, it's never defined. Now, Lulu defined Bloody Point as from, Rick Stern's property, all the way over to, the Sprague property. That's her definition of Bloody Point, and she's probably not wrong, because so much of the land there has been filled into the river to make the bridge shorter over the decades and decades in the 1900s. So it's
I think he's gonna get a map, a bigger one.
you know, the thing about this map is it's not gonna show what you have behind you, Dennis. And that even that doesn't, it's not quite accurate, because Bloody Point Road goes off and then goes into kind
Chris, what I
of
was gonna suggest is, actually pay a surveyor, Eric, can get out there, or somebody can get out there and survey it, we have bounds, and we know exactly where it is.
well, Lulu has the survey from the state on the railway line. And the old railway borders, so that exists, is what I'm saying, we use that as a reference. Lulu believes that it should be the entire railway line, including the Sprague property, put in Bloody Point, and, you know, I think that's in conflict with the intention I have, and probably a member of the board have. We just like it straightforward, and so what you can't see here is where Bloody Point Road goes up and turns.
Well, what I was gonna suggest we do is, and this would be pretty simple, just say the portion of tax map 725, east of, the Spalding and north of Shattuck Way, which is right there. That's all, this is all one.
And John, while you were out, you said, when we have a survey as well, to make sure we get
Yeah.
it nailed down.
Survey.
Survey,
Yeah,
go out
because-
there and identify by survey.
Because I don't think we want this included, because that's gonna stay with the state, for one thing.
Well, and that brings up another
So,
another question, or another issue that Dennis and I have been dealing with. As some of you may know, the state is trying to sell this parcel right here. They had talked about selling this one, this one, this one. Now, for whatever reason, they're only, right now, they wanna sell that. So I've talked to DOT and said, how are you gonna sell it? It's one map and parcel. It's that,
25.
that, and that. And they're like, geez, we don't know.
They
And I
never
said,
did a
well,
subdivision.
you're gonna have a title issue, you can't just sell something, it's never been subdivided. So there may be special rules that apply to this, to DOT, I don't know. But they're looking into it, they said they've never run into this before. So we may be doing a subdivision, so some of that work may be done for us, I mean, if they end up doing, I think we know where it is.
But like, where do you survey this? Does it
And they don't,
get down?
this is never going anywhere, that's never gonna be sold. This, if it's gonna be sold,
And likewise,
it's gotta go.
this will never be sold.
What's that?
This portion will never be sold.
Right, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
we're right, we have, I don't know where the line is, Chris,
Yeah.
but obviously they need this for the bridge,
Yeah, and they're gonna keep certain around here, and that's why I was saying, where this Nimble Hill Road used to come up to here is where that intersection is. And that's where the quasi turnaround area is. It's not a cul-de-sac, but it's just two old roads, and that's where all the,
Dennis, if you want the
Communication.
language for that, what they were offering, I think it's in the proposal the state gave us of what they offered us.
the entirety, Bob, or not?
No,
It's just, it's a portion where Chris was just talking
The
about.
Yeah.
I think they're talking in generalities, there's nothing specific, and I think that's what they gotta look at. They
no,
gotta
I think
look at-
it is specific,
It
Dennis.
is?
It has been surveyed and it is specific.
Okay.
They say 400 feet along here and blah, blah, blah.
If they have a
But it-
description of what they're willing to sell is, then that would be the zone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the
agree.
easier
I've
thing
seen
would have
that
been if they
also,
just
Bob.
written this years
Yeah,
ago.
the
as an
state
overlay zone.
has specifically done that, and Lulu's seen that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what they presented to us.
Do you say what they
You
were
have a
trying?
copy of that description? Oh,
Yeah, we've got to have it in there.
I think we should use that as described
Yeah.
on that.
Would be the easiest thing to do.
John, just check with Martha tomorrow, because I know it was in,
Well, he's not here
Yeah.
tomorrow.
No,
Oh.
I'll check it out, yeah, I'll get it on Thursday, yeah, sure.
That's a good idea, Bob. I was thinking, the only way we're gonna resolve that down there is with the survey, if they've already got it done, then we got it covered. I think that would be a really good use for that, if someone wanted to put an office there, it'd be really,
Be gorgeous.
yeah, some big bucks office space.
Chris, following up on what you said,
Okay.
if we do this sequentially, we're gonna do seven B. And
First.
first, and seven B is gonna have, the first thing will be the new description of the Nimble Hill Road District, and you may wanna amend it tonight, I don't know.
Mm.
And then the new,
It'll have a
it'll be
2,
B one and then B two, and B two will be the description the DOT has sent to the Board of Selectmen.
Bloody Point District, semicolon, land as designated by the state letter.
Okay. And then I don't know if I think we talked about the description that I have here, but I don't know if we wanna make changes to that. Now that-
Why don't we just confirm it with what we have with the, survey?
No, section one.
Okay, no, the only thing I wanted to ask John on section, you talk about the designated areas?
Yeah.
Down the bottom?
Yeah.
Okay, number one, the only thing I was concerned about is on the westerly side, it says parallel to the right of Nimble Hill Road. Does that follow the wall?
Jesus, of course I put the tax maps away.
No, just answer the
Well, let me
question.
grab them, cause I wanna make sure we got it right, right? I mean, it only take one
To answer
second.
your question, no, the wall varies between 710, or 610 and 635. That's the chain and stone post and the stone wall that goes down to Little Bay Road from where the chain angles down at about a 10-degree angle on it. So I believe that we should say,
Let's wait for John to get back. because
Sure.
He's the one that's gonna make the changes.
What's the present size of it now?
It includes, believe it or not, I believe, the transfer station.
About property owners?
What's your map on lot?
All the property, it goes back hundreds of feet, hundreds, on the other side.
What's your map on lot?
But you're changing that, aren't you?
24.
24 what?
The property owner here.
Yeah,
he's
24,
talking about what he thinks.
24,
No, Rick, this is
24,
a public hearing.
Okay.
24-4.
Just start saying.
They have to be notified.
So we're talking, I thought what we were gonna do is just extend this
They have to be
line
notified.
right to here. No?
Uh,
In that distance, where's the scale? I think it's 100.
Rick, during the public hearings, you know this, during the public hearing, someone would have come in and say, no, I don't want it there at 400 feet, that's going right through my barn or whatever, it doesn't make
Okay,
sense.
that's 100.
I have a natural stone wall up there, would be better to put it at. That's the kind of thing we can modify it to.
That's
Right.
500 feet back, right? I can't see that, is it 5? So that's 500 feet to that corner.
Yes, and but it's like 530 down below here.
Where is it defined?
Oh, that's this one.
Right, that's the only place it's defined, right,
Because,
it's as loose as
because
it is.
this stone
That's
wall
it.
goes up and it goes at an angle to the road
So
up,
there's
and
no
then
description anywhere.
then the
to tell
post
you where
strike,
that is, right?
and then.
If
it's
you
the
have
fence,
property
the stone
on
wall that's there.
Nimble Hill Road,
Does this even matter?
north
I
of
mean, is this,
Little Bay
this is
Road,
cemetery in the town?
and
It
your
goes all
land
the way
goes back
back.
a mile.
Why is it just
It
going
goes all the way
to the
back.
road?
A mile. What we're trying to
Because
do is
this is
limit
the
it to
original
a
town
certain number of
forest,
feet.
including
What I'm
the
saying
whole
is,
area.
who
I
does
know,
it benefit
John,
on the side of the road?
I mean, I don't wanna, I'm not trying
I
to.
believe because what they placed in the National Historic
don't know who the
Register
owners
is
are.
both
Chris
sides
is
of
one.
the road.
Yeah,
But the National Historic Register
that's
stops
what I'm saying, right?
and doesn't include the
They have to be
transfer
notified.
station.
That to come to, this is only a work session, this is only a work
I
session.
understand.
So where do you think, I mean, do you think the line should be further back, parallel to the middle of the road, or no?
I think that the best thing is to indicate that the western side is approximately some distance parallel to the road, but it is along the chain and stone cemetery fence line.
Which is here?
Yes, yes.
Well, and that.
But no, it angles differently. It ends up going something like that.
Are you suggesting these tax maps are inaccurate?
Uh,
So, I mean, we can't really say, about, I think we gotta have a distance. And honestly, I don't think it really matters because it's town and transfer.
John,
station.
why don't we have a surveyor go out there, measure where the wall is at both ends and say, this is the.
But I thought I mean, the easiest thing to do, Dennis, would be just to have a distance off of Nimble Hill Road. You know, just a
Sure,
line.
I agree.
We just gotta
Except
find out what that distance is.
if it's truly parallel, but I know the stone wall is not parallel.
I think you wanna go by the bounds, if you know what the bounds are supposed to be, is he saying stone walls and pipe
The problem, Russ, is that this is all one map, this is all one.
No,
tax
I know
map,
that,
so-
but kinda like deeds do it by walls and pipes and markers and.
Yeah, but like the library doesn't own the land. They just have the building,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so there are no meets and bounds there.
And I'm not trying to
I'm just
oversimplify,
I'm
but
just
I don't
bringing
think
that
wait,
up
whoa,
as
whoa,
as
whoa.
a way of saying, whatever the description is of the historic district, I have no idea what it is. Somebody must know.
I just don't know, I mean, first of all, we're not gonna get this thing surveyed in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but and at the end of the day, does it really matter? I mean, you have the town owns all this land anyway, so even if we said, just to be safe, we said 600 feet back, there's 627. Even if we said 600 or 650 feet back off of Nimble Hill Road,
John,
and just went
Why
parallel.
don't we get one measurement from the intersection of Little Bay and
Right.
Little Hill Road, all the way back to where that wall is, and say, and then that wall, follow that wall parallel, and
Yeah.
perpendicular all the way to.
So we'll get the distance from here to here,
And then identify that wall,
and
And
that'll
say-
be the distance all the way down.
that'll be a distance all the way to the piece development.
Fine?
Is that okay with everybody?
That's what I had intended to do.
That's the easy one, what are you gonna do on the other side of the street?
The other side is gonna be just,
Arbitrary.
yeah.
No, it's not arbitrary, I had suggested, I had suggested 400 feet, Bob, and the reason I suggested 400 feet is that we have a 200-foot frontage requirement, so 2 times 4 is 80,000, and that's a conforming lot, that's why I picked that number, I mean, we could change it, but,
Okay.
so if you look at Chris's side, and it doesn't really matter a whole lot.
The road.
So Chris's side.
It's all mine, all
So
mine.
here's Chris's side, I mean,
Oh.
so just there's 400 feet right there.
Yeah.
So we're talking somewhere like that. So this land back in here would now be not part of the historic district.
Oh, put a mobile home in.
Well, honestly,
It's maybe
because, you know, Mrs. Harvey,
Barn,
Oh, okay.
big
Yeah.
barn.
she's not well. So, now, there were 2 sons. One has control of this trust, the other one has a control of the trust out on the corner of Airport Road. When the father passed, it was in his will that, I think it's 7 years after he passes, they can subdivide the Airport Road parcel. And he was pulling a tooth the other day, and I said, what do you do, your Airport Road, we just paved it, I said, what do you know, like, I jokingly, I said, you want a granite curb, you want sidewalks, what do you want? And he didn't say anything, and I said, oh, I get what you're doing, I said, you're gonna subdivide that for your kids. And he just looked at me, and I was like, oh, I hit the nail right on the head. But his brother owns, he controls the trust that owns that farm. So he can't do anything until the mother passes.
Yep.
She's in Webster's on Ride, because
Oh.
she's not doing well.
Yeah.
So I imagine that the trust is written the same way, that when she passes 7 years later, he can divide that. So I'm not saying we need to do it immediately, but I think we need to do it right, because, you know, I don't know how big a parcel that is, but
13 and a half.
yeah, so there's a
Plus
few
Chris's,
houses,
yeah.
so, and I wouldn't wanna see that handled the wrong way.
Well, and honestly, I think 400 feet is too far back. I think it should be more like 200. But the rationale to me is that if someone has a 200-foot lot, frontage on here, then you gotta pick a number. And I think 400 is justifiable by saying that that's how far back the average lot is.
Understand something, this is not a subdivision.
No.
This is not a subdivision, someone could have a portion of their lot in the historic district.
I mean, that's the other thing you could do, is you could go back 200 feet and then if someone you gotta pick a number, right? And again, whether you pick, even if you pick 400, even if you pick 200 feet, someone's gonna be smart enough to say, we're gonna put the house back.
The nice
somewhere out of the
thing
district.
about
No one's gonna
400
wanna be in
is
that
the
district.
rationale John gave, plus everything you can see from the road, if you go up to the old parsonage and the town school, that forest where the line of where the forest is cleared and there's open field, that's about 380 something feet, so a few feet into that is where it would be, and it was probably there because the trees are growing this way every time they drop seeds. So I think that has rationale there. Same with the Harvey property. It has the original farmhouse and the barn and some acreage behind it, and that is all contained within the, what would be 400 feet. If you did a 200, the barn would be in the other one, and most people would argue that the barn is an essential part of the historic setting that's there. So 400 feet gives that.
I think there's rationale behind it. I mean, again, I think driving down the road, I would argue that probably 200 feet is enough, but I think you gotta base your decision on something, and that makes, to me, the
I
most
think the
sense.
two lot subdivision is fine. So,
So Chris, or Dennis, we're gonna try to find the point of the cemetery where it hits Little Bay,
Yeah, there's a wall perpendicular that comes.
and use
Yeah.
that measurement.
yeah.
Or, and if it's 627, we'll go to 650, I mean, I would assume we wanna have a,
And what you're gonna find is that that wall takes off at about, it's not 90 to the road, it's about 110, and it goes over,
but we're gonna use
Up
that,
to the
we're gonna
hill.
use that distance regardless.
yeah,
Yes.
and then it's
Not
gonna
the end.
turn and
And then
parallel
follow,
with
and then
that.
follow the wall, or following the wall. And I wouldn't go, if it's at 127 feet, I'd go to 130 feet. I
Right,
wouldn't-
yeah, just make it an even number.
But
Yeah.
not 127.
Yeah.
And say, it follows that wall is, and say the wall, the wall is actually in the historic district. Because walls are protected,
Yeah.
so.
And for that matter, you could even use the extended fence line,
Yeah, it just
and
keeps
it
going.
keeps the wall in there. So, how about on the other end? This is gonna come out in the middle of the soccer field.
Okay, you know what, I'm gonna say something, I wanna make sure that it includes the entire cemetery.
It will.
I wanna make sure it does, I mean, if we don't, I wanna make, because it's the,
If it angles
because
further.
the fence keeps going up after the wall, and it's still a cemetery. Am I correct?
The soccer field is
No.
part of the cemetery, you know.
The chain and stone post wall was put up by Cliff Abbott and Peggy, I believe.
Yeah.
And-
Lulu.
okay.
Yeah.
So whatever that was put up, it goes up, and then behind it, the library, it turns perpendicular and goes over to, behind the library, and hits the stone wall on that side. So,
It ends up behind the old town hall, right, that's why.
no, it comes up and does a 90-degree angle,
Right.
and then the soccer field sits like this,
Yeah.
and the library is, to answer your question, yes.
Yes.
What was the question? The chain and stone post includes the original cemetery and the new cemetery. And on the 2006 map that was drawn up by Dave Hislop, Peggy and Cos had them put on the soccer field, future cemetery. There was never any vote of that, but it just kind of appeared there.
All right, so I'm looking here at the cemetery, John, why don't you get up here since you're doing it? Here's a cemetery right here, here's a church right here, but here's that wall, see that line right there?
Yep.
And it goes all the way up and continues up to the Pease property, which is right there.
Yeah.
So that wall goes straight, it goes all the way.
So we're gonna pick this point right here,
That point right
and
there,
then we're gonna keep it, hold it, even if it goes over a little bit,
Yeah.
we're gonna hold that line.
All
We
the way
want the same distance.
and
along.
that there, and Chris was right, that was actually a reserve area for a cemetery.
You know what they're doing with reserve areas now for
Yeah.
cemeteries? They're putting solar fields on them.
Yeah.
So no one's burying anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We're thinking of doing a pet burial cemetery up
Don't laugh at it, it's a great moneymaker
there.
and
Start that room.
people are.
Yeah.
Okay, so, do we all agree that the 400 feet easterly of, and parallel to Nimble Hill, that's good? That's okay?
Yeah.
In your, does it affect
Yeah,
you,
I
Chris?
think that there's reason for it,
Yeah, and then on the westerly side, I'll find that distance,
Yeah.
and I'll round it up, because I don't wanna, use an odd number, and then we'll hold that parallel, or
Just make sure
the
that.
same distance, it won't be, it'll be the same distance from Nimble Hill Road to Peak.
John, will it be to the center of the road?
I was gonna do it to the right of way, but, whatever we
Where's the
want to
right
do.
of way begin?
No, I would do it from the right of way,
From the right of way, yeah.
cause the center of the road may be.
Not be in the center of the right of
Right.
way. Typically, they're from the rights of way. I mean, you have pins.
But the right of way is
Yes.
not the, Chris, you said, you've been telling me right of ways are not well described on that road. Well defined, I mean.
So, yeah, that's why you go from the
Well,
center
the
line.
center line's worse.
Yeah, the center line has varied a number of times as well, so, like the center line used to be the old library road. And then it
Right,
went up to
right.
the church and then went over down, and then the
I don't
state
think
moved it
worrying about
over.
20 or 30 feet is gonna matter, it's all town land anyway, but, I mean, we should try to get it as close to accurate as we can, but.
Can I throw something out and just, without being rude? I think that the suggestion is very simple. We either pick a number, I loved your number, I think it's simple and sweet. Or we get someone to go out there and survey and we end the discussion.
I think
It's like,
I-
move
I-
the
we
motion or move the
We
question.
don't need a survey, I can find out what that distance is, and I'll report back to
And
you.
now, we describe it where it ends at the
Yep.
wall.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then A plus B, if it's a little off, it's a little off.
Yeah, it's not
It's
gonna-
our
it's not-
land anyway.
It's not gonna matter.
Thank God my wife's taping that game for me.
That's why I'm trying to get you out of here, all right?
Has it started yet?
Yeah.
So, but I want to get you out of here quickly, but I want to say one more thing, and I don't know if it's worth doing this, but this is something that's bothered me for a long time. Do you want me to ask an attorney, our attorney, about the Bloody Point district? Because as most of you know, that's an illegal zone. You can't have what they call a spot zone, one lot is in a zoning district. I don't know if they might say that's an illegal zone, we should just get rid of it. I mean, if we just get rid of it, it might be even easier, but I don't know. Or should we just be politically correct and just leave it and do what we're doing?
Yes, we should get a lawyer's opinion, is my opinion.
You're saying that the historic designation?
Zoning, if you're ever, there's all kinds of laws about spot zoning. I can't zone your house for
Casino.
Bed and
a
breakfast.
casino.
Right.
Adult-
Can't do
adult
it. It has to be enough land to pass
Yeah.
multiple acres,
Done on
multiple
an
lots.
equitable basis with all the other property around it.
Right, and I mean, that one there, I don't know how they ever did it, but it's never mattered because it's been in the state hands. Now, if the state sells it, it could be an issue. But do we wanna fight that fight, or do we just wanna let it go and just do what we've
I
been
think
doing?
from the standpoint of the one exception to spot zoning has been historic. You know, if there's
Okay.
historic
That's fine,
thing,
okay.
but from the standpoint
It's
of,
actually not even a zone, it's an overlay, I believe.
No, it's a zone, it should have been an overlay.
yeah, when
It's
it
a
was
zone.
put in, it was just put in
It should
way
have been,
back
it was
in.
an overlay, it would have been a lot easier.
It was done in the late,
What time does this
As
game
it-
start, Bob?
Hmm?
What time does the
20.
game start?
It's fine.
It's being taped, yeah, I'm fine.
Sorry.
Okay, so,
There's more than just these things here, I've gotta go over some administrative stuff with everybody, so.
okay, so just to wrap this up, I will come up with a new description of the, easterly side, or the westerly side of the Nimble Hill Road District, based on the cemetery, intersection of Little Bay. You're okay with, the uses permitted in C1 and 2 now? Those are okay? Okay, so I don't think we need a motion with, we're just gonna continue this until I can get you more information, correct?
Yep.
yeah,
Okay. The last one is, it's a lengthy thing, and we have talked about this, I have the whole section for you to look at, it's it's section 2 of the,
Procedure for review.
ground mounted, solar arrays. So the whole thing is on my page 3, and then the additions that I'm suggesting are on page 4.
I would recommend you look at page 4 and not try to absorb all the other stuff that was there because it's not confusing, but you start getting your facts mixed up. I think if you just look at that and say, does that meet the muster that what I'm looking for? All right, because otherwise we're getting into, well, this, and we're confusing ourselves.
So the meat of this thing is section C, where it says, application submitted to both the planning board and the building inspector shall contain a site plan. That's new, we don't require that now. We do require, V, section 5, documentation of the proposed, solar system is directly related to size.
John, why do you say the location of the proposed ground mount or pole mount system? Why'd you say
Can
what
I,
you just said? I just lost my words, lost your words.
Can I actually throw in some words here, because I was waiting for you two to finish on this one? I've got the words, because I understand this in a yucky way. So the way that the first sentence I would propose be changed, and you can help on the wordage, but this is the intent.
Site plan is broken down.
Solar is changing. So, first of all, I wouldn't call it ground mount or pole mount. I would just simply keep it simple and say a ground mount solar energy system. And then I would put in a parentheses, it's a little bit, that's why I need the simplification help. Everything to include other than building or carports mounted solar. So what I'm trying to say here, and I'm not using the right words, is there's going to be a lot of technology developed on energy creation. Right now, we have roof mount, which is allowed, and there's permitting is based on not producing more than what a home should use. When it comes to other things attaching to houses, there are a lot of things coming out. They may or may not make the market. We don't want to open the gate to something that have a year gap. So for the pole mount, we want to make sure that anything on the ground, there's not different ways. You can have it on the ground, it can be put in a million different things, and it opens us up. So if it's not mounted to the roof, it's considered ground mount, period. And then if it has anything outside of that parameter, they come see the board. And I think that's the way we can
Yeah,
simplify
but
it.
I think the terminology that is currently used today, I understand what you're saying, is pole mount or ground mount. Either one, it covers, either one.
It doesn't make a difference if we leave both, but the whole point here is that the thing we're approving is the rooftop is a granted. Everything else is covered by coverage. Anything else attached to the house.
Oh, the rooftop is already allowed.
Oh, no, I'm
It's
saying
allowed in
roof
front.
is allowed.
Yep.
So
With the
that
building.
stays.
Yeah.
Anything else that may attach to the side or anywhere else that we don't know of yet, that's a non-conforming to a traditional roof mount, would have to come before the board.
So I would suggest you look at page, it's pretty easy, because we did talk about this at length, and we discussed words like Jim, in my section, regarding ground mount and pole, we talked about landscaping, including but not limited to shrubbery, trees, fencing, and other earthen berms, or a combination may be used for screening. So we talked about this at length, but if you look at what we have now, it's on page Z50, and it's very, very, vague. And so all we're trying to do is tighten this up. You know, right now, we talk about the size of the thing, the location being an inconspicuous location, which is pretty hard to define. Then we talk about reasonable visual buffers, which is very hard to define, or evaluate. And then the rest of it's is sort of standard stuff. So I think that the criteria we've written in here are pretty stringent, and the fact that the planning board is now gonna be required to approve these things, I think makes a lot of sense.
I'll give you the best example I can give you, and if you're saying that we're protected from this, then I'm totally fine with it. Take the Volkswagen dealership on 33, with the spiral that goes up on the corner where the shag bar kickeries are, or something like that. That spiral is actually a wind generation, it's a wind farm, okay? It's a different configuration. There are so many things coming out. How would you like to have a neighbor with that on their roof, that's sticking 30 feet up or 20 feet up? It may be considered, but it's not a wind turbine.
Well, we also regulate.
Oh, I know, and we have wind turbines.
That's a separate.
But what I'm trying to get at is, there's new things coming out. We don't know what they may be. Let's just say if it's other, come see us. It's really, like, make it simple if we're putting anything.
We're addressing solar panels specifically, we're not addressing.
Well, but specifically, we're addressing solar panels mounted on the ground.
Yeah.
You can get a building permit to put them on your roof, we don't care.
Yeah.
You do whatever you want.
But
anything on the ground,
And Jim, there's other technologies that are coming up. I guess we're gonna have to deal with it as we get there.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I was saying is, if there's nothing we can do about it, there's nothing we can do. I think we covered the ground mount very well as we can cover it. I think that the only thing I'm talking about here is if there's something other than, if solar has changed in configuration from the traditional panel today, that we get an opportunity to look at what that may be.
Well, one of the things that you said the last time we discussed this, Jim, was that you wanted to say that all solar arrays shall utilize non-reflective surfaces. That's something that 2 years ago we may not have known about, so
Yeah.
now we've got that.
That's
The technology
awesome.
changes in 2 years, and I suspect that as technology changes, probably these panels are gonna get smaller and smaller and less obnoxious, hopefully. But, you know, again, that was something that we added because of your input.
Yeah.
So, I think this is pretty tight. I think I think that the one solar array that the planning board reviewed and approved down by, on Hodgson Lane, I thought that was I thought it was an amazing process. And, we didn't have any regulations, so I think this only sort of fortifies sort of the process we went through. And I don't wanna make it complicated for people, because I certainly want people to be able to use solar power, but we also don't, we get a lot of complaints about what happened down the road. So,
Anyone else? All right, there'd be no one else, I wanna get to the football game, but don't put that in the minutes.
I am.
Jim, I know you want
No, no.
non-reflective, I like the non-reflective services, the problem I have with it is the cost. It doubles the price.
Okay, then
And I'm having a problem with that. And what I'd like to say is that it has to be a non-reflective services unless they can prove that it's not going to be, what's the word I want?
if it's gonna be something that will cause a car to basically blind it.
No, it could be interference with someone else's, either airplanes, cars, or a neighbor. John, so,
Reflective,
I'm trying to capture that, I don't wanna be so restrictive that, we're not getting into.
I think we're going down a bad path.
What is the
If we
price
do
tag
that,
for
that's
this?
dangerous.
well, then it's just saying that if they're double the price, it's gonna preclude a lot of people from installing solar.
It's not worth it.
Like right now, you can get free solar if you wanna have solar on your roof and play the game with them. And
Well, it's not free,
I know, I'm telling you, the game, so I said the game.
yeah, but they won't put non-reflective either.
I know,
Okay.
that's.
But we've
kind of a
done, so we've
town
done a good job of requiring screening with, berms and blah, blah, blah. Do we wanna just remove the non-reflective, or do we wanna say at the board's discretion? How do you, I don't know how to evaluate whether or not someone's going to need non-reflective panels, but, what do you wanna do?
You wanna leave it in and say, non-reflective services,
May be required by the planning board?
where necessary, or where,
should be considered. At least it becomes a topic and.
Well, yeah, we consider, thank you very much, we're going with the cheaper version.
How about may be required
I
by
know
the
what you're
planning
saying.
board if deemed necessary?
I like that.
Okay.
Okay.
On what basis is it gonna be deemed necessary?
I don't know,
Safety.
if we can't screen it adequately, Pete, I don't know. I think if we screen these things well, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, but a 25% array, a large array, you can have a large mirror there to be annoying a neighbor really quick.
How about going the other way then, saying all solar arrays shall utilize non-reflective surfaces unless it can be proven that they aren't necessary? I don't know.
You can't do that, oh boy.
Won't cause,
How about addressing the technology in a way that says something along the line that I'm trying to create this as I go, our words aren't coming very good tonight for some reason. Nothing new, I guess. But, instead of addressing on the surface, let's address the annoyance. The safety issue. Shall not interfere with reflective rays, to the detriment of abutters or air traffic or, ground. I don't know, I'm just trying to get it.
It doesn't infringe upon the rights. That's gonna be a hard one to try to enforce, because I love it, because I could put it up and my neighbor, it's going right in their face.
Look at the reflective windows that they put in this building in Boston, reflected right down onto 95. And they put that up years ago, I don't know if they ever corrected the problem, but all I know is when the sun's just right, it's nasty.
That's like when you're
There doesn't
flying.
seem to be a whole lot of discussion about this. We're not in any hurry to post this for a public hearing. So do you wanna take it home and do some homework and look at it and see what you come up with? Or do you think we can solve it right here?
I think we can solve it now.
Well then Pete, since you're the naysayer, why don't you come up with something? I gave you great language and you hated it. so.
I know something
No, I
that
didn't
way.
hate it.
I don't know what to do. Either I agree with you. Either we require them, or if we say you may have, well, how do you decide what
I
may?
like
How
how
about all solar arrays shall not
a public nuisance or a safety hazard.
Shall not have a reflective safety, reflective,
Not introduce a safety issue, or it's, cause you're creating something that wasn't a
What's the
problem
safety?
before.
What about a nuisance? I mean, now.
Yeah.
Nuisance, yeah, it could be
You know, I mean,
nuisance and
How do
safety.
you evaluate a nuisance next door when you're, I mean, the easiest way to do it is to have non-reflective. Because, you know, if you live next door and you get a glare off of it, you might get pissed off, you know? But how do you evaluate that until it's done? You don't.
Have a whole town do it. And every neighbor screaming at every neighbor, and it's,
I mean, interestingly, when we went through that last one, the woman said that's all they installed. I don't know if you remember that, but because Jim asked that, and she said that's all we installed, was a non-reflective. You asked, you said some specific thing, and she said yes, but,
I like the way Dennis said it, reflective surfaces cannot impinge on butters or air traffic. Simple, straightforward.
how do we evaluate air traffic though? I mean, you know, is that easy? I don't,
It's a-
it's
Chris
not-
will do a survey.
Chris will fly over. Is that easy, Chris, is that easy to evaluate, Chris, or not?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Depends on where the sun is.
I mean, look,
Good point, yeah.
You know, some of these systems are coming out where they have tracking capability, and they will move horizontally and
Yeah.
longitudinally
they're amazing.
and track, and so they will always be
Oh, so you
perpendicular
can't
to the
tell.
sun.
Yeah.
To get the maximum, energy absorption. And where does the reflection go? It goes right back to the sun,
Mhm.
so it creates a double sun.
how about we just say something like this,
Shall address.
solar arrays shall not create solar glare.
And then we can discuss it on the application for the specific location.
At the discretion of the planning board.
But how are you gonna, how's the planning board gonna test it?
And we make the applicant do it.
we're gonna put mirrors out there, move them
That's what I'm
around.
saying, I mean, you're gonna do a site walk and say,
Or you can, I mean, non-reflective surfaces are suggested, non-reflective solar array panels are recommended.
Encouraged.
I don't even say recommended, if you do that, then you start getting into
What was the
product.
word you said, cause?
Shall not
I
create
like
solar glare,
encouraged.
that makes sense? We're gonna get home I promise you, we're gonna get home on time for the pizza and the beer, I promise you.
Got 15 minutes to get there.
No, the game actually starts at 8:20.
8:20.
Yeah.
The pre-game starts at 8
We
o'clock.
got a little bit.
Okay, so I don't think we need a motion on this one. Let me clean this up.
okay.
I've got what Dennis said, that, and I'll clean this up along with the historic district, which I think we finally settled on, we're gonna do it as 1 and 2. We're gonna do it as 2.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I will clean that up for you, and I'll get it out to you for discussion at our next meeting, which actually could be, I mean, if you want me to do it, we can do it Monday night, or if you wanna wait we gotta discuss the schedule next, but I will get that to you. And that's all I have for you.
All right. Let's talk about the schedule, since you're talking about that already. We only had one meeting in November, and we're into the season right now for changes, and John, do you know the last date we can actually bring something to public hearing?
I don't, but we have a while, but I don't wanna wait till the last meeting.
No, I wanna be done ahead
So,
of time.
I would like to schedule the first zoning public hearing, I wouldn't mind doing it the day after, it's a couple of days after Christmas if we could.
Okay, all right.
But, here's what I know, we have a meeting next Monday night, which I know Chris will not be at. I hope, I've told the applicant, I don't want them to spend 3 hours, I was hoping they could do everything in an hour, but give you a thorough update as to where they are, and then what their expectations are for the first meeting in January. So that, I would hope that an hour and 15 minutes is more than enough. We could certainly, at that time, I won't be able to, I can probably get you these by email, Thursday, cleaned up, and we could finish the zoning, we could have all these, ready for public hearing. I'd want them vetted by John Radigan first, before we posted them. And then conceivably, I don't have my phone with me.
I have the dates here.
Do we have time to post that? What's Monday night? What's the date?
13th.
We don't have time. So the zoning public hearing is gonna have to take place the first planning board meeting in January, because we need,
How much time you need?
well, we need 10 full days, but we're not gonna get it if John's got, I think John should look at these first.
All right.
So we have, Dennis and I talked about having a meeting on the 27th.
The 20th or the 27th?
I don't know if we need it, but we could do it.
If we get these things done and we are in a timely manner, we don't need to meet twice, 2 more times. We only need to meet next Thursday, next Monday for sure. So, but as a preference, this is what I'd like to find out from everybody. Do you prefer the 20th or 27th or January? If we go to January, there's a lot of time that lapses and we forget what we talked about.
20th, if you're asking.
I'm just asking, just a general.
Well, let me say this, though. So how many days is that clear between the two? That's 14 days, right?
In January.
No, if we went from if we went from Monday to the
13th.
27th,
That's 14 days.
So what I could do is, I mean, we can actually post those zoning amendments for a public hearing, and I suspect Reading can get back to us in that timeframe if he saw anything of issue. I don't think he will. Or would you rather have him review before we post?
I think it's good to review.
Okay, all right.
Will we have 4 people here for?
It doesn't matter, Jim, it doesn't matter now, because I think Dennis is right. We really should have John look at these before we post them, because if there's any issue, I don't wanna go backwards. So, if we can't have the zoning public hearing on the 27th of December, it doesn't matter when our next meeting is, so we
But
can
then
do
we
it.
can't be getting into modifying these things because we're running out, the clock is running out.
I think most people are pretty comfortable with what we have here, so unless something comes up new, which I doubt.
Well, don't forget, we're gonna have the public hearings, there's gonna be people who may wanna come here and say, hey, wait a minute, and
Yeah,
we
yeah, and you're not gonna get anything from the HCC because they have no meeting in December. They have parties, they have not parties, but they have the Christmas activities and the town bonfire and other things that they're rightfully focused on, because that's their issue.
So I guess maybe, we could play it by ear, but if you could, I mean, what I really wanted to do was I really wanted to get Shackford approved this year. Unfortunately, I pushed as hard as I could today. Eric Weiner is gonna be out of town on the 27th, and he needs to be here. I know. I didn't want it to go into January, just because it's a monkey on my back, I wanted it off.
why can't we get it done the 13th, next Monday?
There's too many issues. I mean, they're one meeting away from getting it approved. The fact that Eric can't be here, I mean, we could do it without Eric, I guess, but.
But, now, can you approve it before the dredging, before DES?
It would be-
It's gonna be a condition of the approval. They're never gonna have it approved. Yeah, they're gonna need all their state permits.
Who can make it the 27th? Honestly.
Okay. I'll be online.
You'll be online.
Well, I can, you can put your cell phone on and I'll listen.
Why don't we send you the
We
video?
used to
We'll
have
send you the
fun.
videotape
If I have
the
any,
next day.
if I have any comments, I will submit them, and John, you can read them, or
We
if
can't
you
do
don't
it.
like them, you can ignore it.
There's no reason, we really don't need Eric. I mean, if Eric can have his review done, I guess we could meet on the 27th. I think Carrie's available, so we could wrap up Shepherd, just get it off the table, and then in January, we could do zoning entirely.
So, if we have to choose a date, the 27th, I guess is the day. I just wanna see if you're available. So I hear that you are, but we're gonna probably wind up going into January. Is that what you're saying, John?
My goal would, if the board agrees, we'll probably go into January, but if the board agrees that we're very close to approving Shackford, and you wanna come out on the 27th to get it
All right.
done,
We will
And
do it. I just wanna
Eric
see,
says we
give me
can
that
do it.
flexibility. I can call a meeting if I know you're gonna.
and we'll make the decision on Monday night,
All right,
next week.
good? All right, good.
Sorry for that.
What else you got, John?
I have nothing else.
All right, a couple things. Jane, minutes.
Yep.
As far as I know, we still haven't got the minutes from last summer. Did you turn those in?
Yeah.
To who, at Eleanor?
I don't know.
All right, all of them? All of them? All right, good, thank you. And we gotta try to keep up. I know we had, so tough summer this year. I'm gonna go over these really quick. John, you talked about conditional use permit.
Yep.
I wanna talk about additional ordinances, auto dealerships, other things that you want in the commercial district. You wanna see anything else changed? I look at the auto dealerships as, do we wanna become like a Manchester where they have dealer after dealer after dealer and large acreage, so right now we allow it. So we thinking about that and whether or not we wanna do that, because is anything that requires, I mean, there was someone who was, what was that, Camping World?
Yep.
Camping World wanted to come in where the Asian restaurant used to be, and that would be a terrible use, I think. It's just a parking lot with a lot of trailers parked on it.
So I guess what Dennis is asking, your homework is, between now and next Monday, think about whether or not we should eliminate car dealerships and maybe, vehicle or RV sales.
Or add something, is there a new technology, is there a new?
Yeah, I mean,
something-
we have
I think
two
gotta
now,
go.
we have two now, do we want 20? I don't know.
And that's in the office district?
I think it would be both, office and
Any
commercial.
district you have, if you think there should be a change, now's the time to be bringing it forward, or actually, it should have been before now. But we don't wanna, we have 6, and we don't wanna be loading them up, but if there's something that you feel that we should change, now's the time to bring it up. I questioned auto dealerships. The budget, our bottom line for the budget is still the same. The computer that did the addition on things, the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet, the formulas behind each block was not correct when we did the work. So I just wanna let you know that a couple of those items are going to change by $1,000 or 2, and that's it. But the bottom line is, the bottom line is still the same, the exact same amount. But I just wanna let you know those typos that were made, and then that has to be resolved. You know, stuff that was, it doesn't matter, it's just got done, we need to fix it. But just that the board knows it, I'm making all of you aware of it in a public meeting, and I'm not just making that decision. That's happening, but the bottom line is staying the same.
This is the planning board's budget.
It's the planning
Yep.
board's budget.
Okay.
It was a
No,
spreadsheet problem.
We're gonna
Formula
vote
wasn't-
We're gonna vote on a town budget, all right, that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna tell us selectmen what we want. I bet you Bob right now is saying, boy, that would be great if you could do that.
Exactly.
Okay, I gave John a copy of I found the CIP, and it showed all the projects we had in 2011. So, and I got that from a list of people who, I found a list of people that I went to, and I went over to the fire department, I said, do you have this? He goes, yep, and pulled it right out. So anyways, it's not the entire CIP, but it was listed in all the projects. And I was surprised, a lot of them were already done. They're all done. Let me see, oh, the other thing we need to replace Erica, we need a vice chair. How do you wanna deal with that tonight? I wanna deal with it. Either we don't deal with it, or we do deal with it. And normally we appoint alternate members who have been sitting here doing the work, versus going outside the board. But it's what we need to do, and so I'm not really sure how you wanna do it.
Say anything. I don't know about replacing Erica because we're so close to town meeting, I don't know if it's that important, but I think having a vice chair, I mean, Dennis's track record is pretty amazing, but if something happened, it would be nice to, I don't wanna show up at a meeting and say, who's gonna chair the meeting? So it'd be good to at least have a vice chair in place in case something, for some reason Dennis couldn't
If
attend.
we're going to appoint a replacement for Erica, we should do it sooner, because that member will be voting.
Right,
On the
true.
vice
Oh,
chair.
true, I'm sorry, true.
So if we do, if we don't, if we wanna wait until the election, I could still fill in, both of you actually could still fill in for who, I can do that, you're right. Cause they could, I could appoint them as temporarily acting, but if one of them's gonna be, only one of you can be appointed at this point, cause we only have one slot available. So I'm not sure how we wanna deal with it. Rick, I'm not sure if you want it, or.
I can make a motion to nominate Jim,
If Jim wants it.
if Jim wants it.
All right, so I wanna make sure that the two of you are both voting members at this board, so that's good. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Would people feel better if Jim wasn't here, if you wanna discuss something? Can I
Oh, I'd be
assume-
happy to.
No, I just wanna make sure, cause everyone's just looking back at me, all right? And it's awkward sometimes, you know, so, all right. Then, with that being the case, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, any abstentions? All right, Jim, you're appointed to what? How about a vice chair? And we have any issue, do we wanna wait on that? How do you wanna deal with that?
I'd probably nominate Chris, does anybody
I
else?
second that.
Oh, I absolutely disagree with you 100%, without a doubt.
That's
I
a
wanna
worst
go
case.
on record, no,
But
okay,
they did it.
but they didn't, I know. Chris, you just gotta be hitting yourself if you do it.
Well, we'll come up for pre-election in March again, so.
Done it many
If I
times.
misbehave in 3 months, then
Chris, I'm like,
perfect.
I say that with love. All right, any, yeah,
Further discussion?
any discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, Chris, have fun.
Now, I think you have a set of minutes, don't you?
Yes, minutes.
Might still got a chance of making that game.
You'll get, so we're gonna get there. If I'm wrong on the time, I'm sorry, but I was told it's 8:20. All right. Any changes to the minutes? I looked through it, I was fine with everything in here.
Oh, and save this, the packet that I sent out to you today, save it, because there's some information for Shafford, the public works letter from the city of Portsmouth.
Oh, yeah.
The letter from the Board of Selectmen basically saying that they don't wanna, they're not gonna require a bond.
Let me talk about this, Public Works. I called them today, on here it says if they have to put a sprinkler system or irrigation system, they put a meter on it. The guy said, I'm sorry, you don't have to put a meter on it, and Newington, as long, if you have sewage, you do.
Yeah.
So, but this letter says, and he said, we gotta change the letter, it's like a form letter they send out.
Ah,
And then the other one was,
And I sent you that, so I sent you any of the correspondence I got, just so you had it. I don't always do it, but I thought maybe you'd be interested in it. And then you have the extension letter from the applicant, so you have that. And then the minutes are in there from November 8th.
all right, so we have the minutes. Any changes to the minutes, or we have a motion, if there's no changes?
Can we roll back for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because when you brought up the issue of dual meters, it's kind of interesting. Because Portsmouth charges,
Yeah.
if you're on septic,
yeah.
you don't get any storage. If you're having a water system, the reason for dual meters, I had to do this when I was living elsewhere, but then we put in a
For the
thing
irrigation system.
for irrigation system
They charge you a
because
different price.
they got it.
Yeah, otherwise they
Well,
charge.
they're not charging you a different price, they're not charging you for the sewage.
They're not charging the
Yeah,
storage,
yeah.
and then you don't get the,
Yeah.
call it the luxury tax
Yeah.
that they hit you with.
Yeah. But here, because they don't have sewer, there's no discount on your, lawn irrigation. Yeah.
Anybody? Motion?
I move
To
that we
adjourn.
approve the minutes.
Thank you,
Second.
second. All right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Good, minutes are accepted. And all you gotta do is take the draft off of that, should be all set. All right, how about the classic motion to, I'm sorry.
One more thing.
There was an article that was put out there by the Newington neighbor. I don't know if all of you saw it or not. But there was someone, Trues, put in there. I'm not sure if we want to discuss that or even respond to it.
Before I do.
What happened?
No acknowledgement, it's not a town, it's a private, it's a private individual's private business.
Thank
And I don't know if we,
Well, the only thing,
If there's-
the only thing we could do is, we could address how, say like the Eagley property, it was not denied, it was approved. They had the option to tear down a house and rebuild, they didn't have to build a road. We don't even address the article, we just say what the truths are and probably have John, or have one of us write it up, or me, write it up and saying these are the things we've done, but typically that's what John's been doing, on stuff, but I think we probably need to get
in the e-news, does it go out?
get the facts out there a little bit better.
Does it go out in the e-news that the town puts out on a monthly
It
basis?
would, if John writes something, and he's been writing it.
My opinion is I don't think you should do it. I don't think you should respond to that, because we're just gonna go down a rabbit hole. I think getting the facts out is very good,
That's what I'm saying, that's what I think we should do.
but I don't think you should respond to that.
Any discussion?
Oh, don't the minutes take care of that?
If somebody doesn't agree,
Getting the facts
See,
on?
people are reading the e-news, and they don't even go look at the minutes. Nothing?
So, are we to propose that John write up the facts?
No, I'll just, the next e-newsletter, I'll just give a recap of what the planning board did. I'll make sure it's hard, what I don't like doing is I don't like, saying things that I can't factually prove. But what we all know, that the reason that Scott Akerley didn't tear down the house that's there now, we don't know. I think it was a finance thing. I don't think he could get a mortgage on a lot that he didn't own. So I think that's why what initiated the process. I can't say that in a newsletter, But we did not deny, in fact, I told them, this board has told them, you could tear that house down tomorrow and get a building permit.
And just say that, just say, he had,
They had every right to
he had
rebuild
every
that
right
house
to
in
rebuild that
place.
house, and.
So, but I just wanna make sure that, you know, there's, if, you know, that we did not force that subdivision upon the acres.
They said they wanted to change the footprint, is why
They wouldn't matter, they could double the size, the house was there, once the house was there, it didn't matter.
All right, classic motion.
I'm gonna say, I don't think that John should respond either, you
No,
know, this is-
I won't respond, but I'll just, in the
It's
next
not, it's not a
newsletter,
response, it's not
I'll
a
just put the
response, it's
facts
just
out.
gonna put the facts out there about the Eagley subdivision and how it started and how it went.
And other board news, you know.
Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second, Jim, all in favor, say aye.
Hey,
Anyone opposed?
way to go, Jim.
All right, Patriots. Thank you very much.
And hopefully by then, or not hopefully, but maybe by then the Shackford will be approved, and I can, no, there'll be enough to update.
Remember John said, don't throw out your package? Oh, no, we all said no.
No, don't, well, I sent you stuff that you don't normally get, Dennis, but I know, I just wanna make sure you guys are doing so.
John,
they. Yeah.
it has a,
Question,
your
January's planning
that
board,
has a little airplane on top. Pocket and
what
then
date's the
fire
planning
gun.
for that?
It
I
arrived.
don't know, I mean, you know, I was trying to clarify,
Those,
you got precedent.
I don't, the rear of the thing was broken in half, so I put 4 toothpicks. And I put the toothpicks in, and I got it now in there, I put crazy glue around it, and then
Do we do?
you can go out and shoot it. I'm not even going to shoot it. He can shoot it, and it can blow up, or it will fly. But it's hysterical.
We,
What do you think our kids, I didn't realize this.
younger one,
Eric Weiner,
6, he's a drummer.
Monday or
So-
January?
Yeah.
No, real one. He's got a small one, a kid one, and he told his mother,
That's the third one.
January
I don't like my
17th?
drums,
Yeah.
they're kids' drums.
He's
I
gone
want
from
Oh, is
this.
it Martin Luther King Day? It's,
So-
no, it's Martin, it's a
So-
holiday. It's Martin Luther King Day.
His
Oh,
brother
So
was
Chris is
a
saying, what is our
great
planning board schedule gonna be?
He reads
Well,
in
Martin
fourth
Luther
grade
King
level.
Day is the 17th, you don't normally meet on the 17th.
You mean on the first and
He
third
wanted
Monday?
to-
No, no, second is.
Oh, second and fourth? Oh, so you're okay.
Yeah,
we had to do it
yeah. I was just wondering if we were planning to meet on the third or.
I would say the second.
And this is, 24th is not too late to have a second public hearing.
Because we might.
Oh my God.
We checked every single furniture store, depending upon what kind of corner we get back
And that
in.
happens a lot.
I'm gonna be back for the year, so.
You're gonna be back
Say
in
2 feet
2 feet.
wide. I have one.
So I guess plan on the second and fourth, and if we, you know. Why don't you pop me an email or whatever, or Dan, after Monday night.
I'll be emailing you comments and things all
Well, we'll know more after Monday night, you know, what progress we
Yes,
made.
yes.
Oh, cool.
Called him in the morning.
In 2020.
No, I
Well, we-
confer,
Hubbington
you know, I have, you know, you've heard my
The lady was
comments,
like, we don't sell
I don't like the trade.
Boy, for people who want to go home and watch a football game, I
How many
can't believe
months?
you're still here.
It'll be sure, we'll get it made.
Yeah, I.
And like I said, I don't know why I'm
Russ,
so.
I hope I didn't offend you tonight. No, I hope I didn't offend you tonight.
It's a good move, anytime we
I thought what it
can
was,
move things along,
and I had to
let's
repeat
start
something
this
out
trickle
loud.
down.
So,
Oh, wait, you know something?
I purposely did that, but I wasn't sure if you, because you're surprised, you were like, you looked surprised when I